I almost gave up, but my mom was actually the one who said, don't give up. It doesn't make sense. You guys looked at everything, and there should be, you looked at everything. You guys are supposed to be allowed to have this. And she saw the difference just having them for 3 weeks made in my son. And she's like, we can't not have them on your property. It's amazing what's happening in front of our eyes. And she wasn't wrong. So I was like, all right, you're right. I can't not fight.
This is the Farm Hop Life podcast. I'm Matt DeRozier. I'm joined today by Kayliegh Harte of Harte Homestead. Kayliegh is new to homesteading, raises goats, and sells soap in New York. How's it going, Kayliegh?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good, thank you. So I reached out to you and you messaged me back. I appreciate that. And you said you've barely started homesteading, like at this point, 1.5 years, I want to say?
2.5.
2.5 now. Okay. So how did you get into it?
Well, we had friends who had just like a whole bunch of chickens, and we were starting to get eggs from them because we were like, let's try like real homegrown eggs and everything. And we fell in love with like the flavor and the quality of the eggs. Like even just the color of farm grown eggs yolks is completely different from store bought. And my husband was eating just tons of them. I was constantly making trips to my friend's house to go get more eggs. So I cracked a joke with him one day, like, we might as well just get our own chickens. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, really? And I flew with it. Literally like 10 minutes later, I was down at the farm store ordering chicks because I knew if I gave him enough time to think about it, he'd second guess it. We didn't have a coop, nothing at the time. But I was just like, okay, chicken. And that started it.
Thankfully, chickens, like, even though you didn't have the infrastructure, they're pretty easy. I mean, you can literally buy a box of stuff to raise them at like almost any farm store and you get up and running in 30 minutes. So
yeah,
at least it's easy that way. So how did you, what happened after that? How did you get into the goats?
So we got really into the chickens first. We did a lot of YouTube watching, and we just were watching all sorts of different YouTubers with their homesteads and the things that they were doing. And we've come across a lot of them that it wasn't just chickens or ducks or geese or something. They had, other farm life. And we are limited as far as our property goes, as we are only on a 2-acre lot and we're in a village. So we're very limited with coding rules and everything of what we could have. And my husband was like, I really want to have goats. So we looked into it and we just decided to figure out which breed we wanted. We figured out the Nigerian dwarfs seemed like a really good fit. They're slightly quieter and they're smaller breed and good for dairy. And we went full throttle. It wasn't just get 2 because, they're herd animals. It was, let's start off with like 11 or 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we weren't playing games.
I guess not. How is the goats? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
that's
here's
Forky.
One of them. This is Forky. He's our newest little baby. He comes from incredible show lines and milk lines. So he's going to bring some really nice babies to the herd.
I've never watched anybody milk a goat. Is it difficult?
I could not do it by hand. I tried and I just made her so angry and so ornery. So I wound up just, I felt so bad for her. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But I wound up just getting a milk machine from Amazon for like $110 and it works beautiful. And she stands there nice for it.
That's pretty slick. Does it take a long time? Does it depend on the goat?
Maybe 10 minutes from start to finish for one goat.
Just once a day, twice a day?
It depends on when you want to do it. You could do it once a day. You could do it twice a day. It depends on if they're feeding babies and if you want to separate them. I like to just do it in the morning. I don't really like to be bothered. And it's hard to get out of the house because of our son being autistic. It's hard to get out of the house and trust him alone for a few minutes if I have to run outside. So we always have to schedule things very carefully around him.
Sure. So do you want to get into about using the goats with your son?
Sure. So we initially weren't really planning on using the goats for anything to help him, but we noticed when we first brought in the chickens, even before the goats, that our oldest son, who's severely autistic and mostly nonverbal, he started to want to get involved, and he would come out and he'd want to pick the eggs, or just kind of look at them, and he'd think that they were funny when they were rolling in the ground. And then we brought the goats home, and it was a whole new ball game. We started naming them after like his favorite Disney characters, hence Forky from Toy Story. And it gave him a way of relating to them like immediately, because, oh, they have a really cool name. We have a goat named Susie Sheep. She's not a sheep, she's a goat from Peppa Pig. But it helped him relate to them. And once we brought them in, this nonverbal child starts telling them good night every night from the window. And he goes out there and he wants to help me haul the buckets of water to go bring to them and stuff. The one downside we realized is, because autistic kids can be very sensitive, is that, well, it's not a downside, it's actually a really good thing, that they can't have a dirty housing at all. It has to be super clean, because he's like sensitive to the smells from them. So like the buck pen, he doesn't really go in too much, because the bucks, no matter what, they have a musk to them. Okay. But the does and the wethers, he really enjoys them. And right now, this little dude literally goes upstairs every single night and tucks him in, and then they sing him a night song, and they tell him it's time to go to his crib, because he sleeps in a pack and play with the fitted sheet over it.
That's really great. That's such a great story. That's why you when you told me like what it is you do and whatnot, I was so excited to get you on, because I was just like, I've never heard anything like this before. This is amazing. Just like, I don't know, just a feel good thing that like, hey, there's similarly, I have a I would say a mentally challenged cousin, and him and horses are just like him and his horses. Just that's all he like. He's just has like horse chores, loves riding his horses, just loves playing with his horses. Just like there's something about connections with animals. And
absolutely, it's people don't realize they have a school around here, which is one of the reasons why I kind of encouraged him to do stuff. Is there's a school for children like him around here, and they have a whole farm that the kids go to, and they help and they do things for these animals, and they all really love it. So there's definitely something to it.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and like I think like you said, it's underrated for sure. So I guess back to the goats. I'm a little curious about your restrictions in where you live.
Okay.
You can have goats, but not. So what are the things that you like can't have?
I can't have a rooster.
Okay.
I can have up to 18 chickens.
Okay.
Nothing else is written in the code as far as like other fowl. Our property size, in all technicality, there's nothing written saying we can't have a cow or we can't have a horse, but we live on 2 acres. I'm not going to do that to a cow, and I'm not going to do that to a horse. It's not fair. No, there's some restrictions. There's nothing written in our code about goats. We actually had an issue where the village code enforcer had come to the house, and he had told us that we had to get rid of everything. And we did. At first, got rid of the first 2 goats we have, which we have back now. And we looked further into it because we looked up all the coding. Everything said that we were allowed to have everything that we have. And I actually had to get his boss on him, and they had to bring in the village attorney to look through the code and everything to find out that he acted too quickly in telling us to get rid of things without looking into it, that it's not written. And because it's not written, we can have those things. But since the connection Riley has developed with them, I spoke to his doctor, and she wrote us just as a backup in case they ever changed the law and we would have to fall into like a grandfathered in thing or whatever. She wrote us a doctor's note for him that basically states that he, as long as he has his condition of autism, which is a life condition, can have an entire herd of goats. So they're safe.
Good. I like that you went over that guy's head instead of fighting him. You're just like, I like that. I like that tactic a lot. Just put him in his place.
I almost gave up, but my mom was actually the one who said, don't give up. It doesn't make sense. You guys looked at everything, and there should be, you looked at everything. You guys are supposed to be allowed to have this. And she saw the difference just having them for 3 weeks made in my son. And she's like, we can't not have them on your property. It's amazing what's happening in front of our eyes. And she wasn't wrong. So I was like, all right, you're right. I can't not fight. So we fought. Sure. We got the 2 back. Unfortunately, one was supposed to be a breeding buck. And where he went was to rescue, and he got castrated. So we don't get to use him as a breeder, but he's the happy little weather telling us when our girls are in heat now. So
there you go. Still making them work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then what else do you have on your homestead?
We have a bunch of chickens, and we have a miniature pig. She lives inside the house. We've actually had her longer than we've had any of the other farm animals. Oh. Her name is Peppa. She is 6 years old.
Should have guessed.
Yeah, right. She's 6 years old. She lives in the front room of the house. And she's like a pet. She's like one of the dogs. And then we have 3 dogs and a bunch of little inside furry critters. We love animals in this house.
I can tell.
Yeah.
What about your garden?
My greenhouse just collapsed with the winter, so it needs to be redone. Oh. Yes, sure did. Well, it was one of those like pop-up greenhouses, so it lasted a good 2 years. And this year I knew it just was kind of already shot. And I've got other plans in my head of what I want to do, which brings me to my goal of this summer is I'm going to learn how to use a chainsaw. I want to build
nice.
I want to learn how to build kind of like a cabin-like structure around the raised beds that I had built. And I want to turn it into like just like a really cool with like the natural wood. We have a lot of trees that we had felled. And I want to take a lot of the wood from those trees and just create kind of like a cabin base with like the side paneling and make just like a really intricate looking, neat greenhouse.
That'd be cool.
I've got some summertime goals. I try to come up with like 1 or 2 things that I want to learn that's new every year and like little projects that are like, okay, let's get this done this year. And maybe next year we'll focus on that. We try not to overwhelm ourselves with, let's get it all done.
That definitely backfires because then you're just drowning to try to get everything done and then nothing gets done.
Absolutely.
So, like I've got a rock path that I started building for drainage because all the water runs off the gravel driveway to one side of the house. And then it was just a ton of work digging out the hard dirt and then, putting in drainage there. And I stopped. And I don't even remember why I stopped. It doesn't matter because right now it's just a muddy mess because there's no more rocks. They stopped. I stopped putting in the rocks, and it's been like that for 2 years. And so I got to come up with a different plan or just finish it. So,
yeah.
So bigger greenhouse, nicer greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
What motivates you to grow your own food?
The quality of food, and my son, I think a lot too, because he's not just autistic, and most autistic kids also come with ADHD, which he has a nice case of in addition to his autism. And there's a lot to be said about food and the quality of the food and the fake preservatives and everything and the dyes and stuff that are in a lot of like store-bought foods. Basically exasperating the hyperactivity and his inability to focus and stuff like that. So having more natural foods come from a place that we're familiar with, that we know where they came from. We know if they were sprayed with anything, which they wouldn't be because I just don't like doing that. Right. But we know exactly it started as this teeny tiny little seed and it grew into something. And I mean, there's pride there too. You put a seed in the ground, you water it, you take care of it, you nourish it, you hope the moles don't eat it. And then if they don't, you've got something to put on your own table, which is, it's really pride. I think there's a lot of pride involved in that.
So in doing the growing your own food and feeding it to your, have you noticed a difference in his behavior or attention, or just by feeding him homegrown food?
We're still getting to a point where he's getting more food from us than the grocery store. But right now we don't have any does in milk. But I did notice in the summer when we had our one doe that was in milk that had kidded, he was getting his medicine in her milk morning, afternoon, and night. And because he was drinking the goat's milk that came from the farm, we knew what we were feeding her. I did notice his behaviors were a little bit different in a good way. And he was a little bit calmer. I mean, granted, he was getting medication, but it was a noticeable difference in his focus. And this summer he blossomed in speech and everything else. And he was eating some vegetables and stuff from the garden as well. And things, it was just not as much store bought stuff as it was from home. You know, his eggs are now always from home. We have that, you know, it seems to be, I think we've seen improvement in him. Whether I can say definitively that it's because of the food or whatever, I can't, but I noticed we've seen a lot of growth in him this year.
That's awesome. So would you say that a goal of yours is to just keep producing more of your own food and then less buying from the store? Is there a point? Like, is it 100%? Is it 75%? 50? What would you?
No, absolutely. I'd like to expand more on the greenhouse. I am not the best with the green thumb. I'm working on it. I figure like 30 years a charm. The first year I had done pretty well and got all the way up until about a week or so before it was time to harvest a lot of stuff. And something went through the greenhouse and ate at least, I would say, 80% of my crops.
Oh, no.
So
That's terrible.
I think it was like moles or something. They crawled up through the raised. I have raised beds that are about like 21 inches deep or whatever. And whatever it was crawled up through, I think it was moles. So the next summer, this last summer, I physically dug out each and every raised bed, and I did a hugelkultur method in the beds. So I had to take the sticks that were still in there because it was hugelkultur. So there were sticks in the bottom and then all this other stuff, and I had to dig it all up and all out. And I lined the bottom with hardware cloth. Like, these little suckers aren't getting up through here this time. And then filled them all back in. That was like a weekend's worth of work. You know, the kids are at school, the husband's at work, and I'm out there just shoveling away.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like so much work, but it needed to be done.
But I like it. My husband's so funny because he enjoys the work too, but I'm like my dad. I get working on a project and I'm like, I don't care if the sun's going down. I want to finish it. And I'm like fully engulfed in it. And he's like, come inside and eat dinner, take a shower. And I'm like, it's fine. And he's, no, come inside. So he's kind of my ground. He keeps me actually drinking and eating, I would say.
Yeah, sure. You know? I completely understand. I've been there. Yeah. Yep. So that's cool that you do hugelkultur inside of a raised bed. So
I didn't have enough dirt to fill the bed, and it's really expensive. And I didn't have the huge heap of compost until this year or anything. So I had to come up with something to fill the bed and to make it high enough. So I learned about hugelkultur, and I said, you know what, this sounds like an awesome thing. It's just going to biodegrade inside and create more of a healthier soil. So I said, let's go for it. And we had tons of sticks and stuff because we had a bunch of trees felled. So I just went out and collected as many sticks as I could and filled the whole bottom. And we had straws filled up with straw. And then I put some compost and then dirt on top and did it right inside the raised bed. It was a good way of filling it.
That's great. So what other like methods or techniques are you trying on your place?
We've tried a lot of things. I mean, honestly, YouTube leads us to so many different ideas, and it's like one person says, "Oh, do it this way," the other one says, "Do it that way," and sometimes we'll combine them and make it our own way.
There you go.
I did a water piping system because I like to farm, but I also like easy. I do not like lugging water. I think it's a waste of time and a pain in the butt. So I came up with I found a video again on YouTube and kind of made it my own and ran PVC piping from the hose spigot and put it all together and made 2 new spigots, one by the chickens, one by the greenhouse, and then have it where all we have to do is turn the hose on, and it's got ball valves to turn it on or off, and different ball valves in different lower and high points so you can drain it out so it doesn't pop in the winter time. And that helped us because I'm lazy and I would rather just have a hose right where I want to be and not lug a pail of water to where I want to go. I hate winter time. Like, I want spring now because I'm lugging water.
I can absolutely relate. I put on this year, it was like I think it was Prime Day or something like that, and I bought 5 irrigation timers that like hook in line with a hose. So the little watering that I have to do for like my postage stamp of a lawn, because the rest of it's like I'm on just over 2 acres also.
Okay.
The rest of it's just like sage and knapweed and just kind of, I like the sage. Knapweed can go away, but like anyways, the lawn barely needs any watering, but I don't want to do it. So I just put it on timers and let it go. So
yeah,
I mean, the thing, like, to do like those little tricks, it just lets you put in like the 5, 10, 15 minutes here and there to the other things that you really want to
absolutely
need to get done. Not like these mundane carrying water or carrying a hose or whatever it is. So
absolutely
little things like that always work out.
Don't eat my hair.
Is that an issue? Do your goats eat your hair?
Not all of them. This guy, though, will just chow down, and I tell him it's hair, not hay, and he just doesn't listen.
Well, if it didn't smell like hay, I'm assuming.
No, well, it could. I mean, I'm outside all the time.
So what if you tried that worked well?
Homesteading.
Homesteading's working out really well. I'm glad.
It is.
It doesn't always for everybody.
No, it doesn't for everybody. But we found a part of us that we didn't know existed until we did this, and it brought my husband and I closer together. It brought the kids and us closer together. Heck, it gave me a business to do from home when I've been thinking for years, how can I possibly maybe work from home and spend more time with my son? His behaviors require me to be home, so I'm constantly stuck doing like, a evening shift of some kind of job that is only like 2 or 3 days a week because I can't be away from him too long because it affects him. So it's got me to a point where, my hope is that, by this time next year that I'm not doing a side job at all anymore, that I'm working straight from the house, and that I can have all of my focus here on the farm and the family and everything else. So homesteading, it brought us a lot of good.
Good. That's great. So what hasn't worked so far? You're trying new things, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What hasn't worked?
Ducks. Don't buy ducks.
Just because they're messy?
They're horrible. They're so sweet and they're loving, and you hatch them from these little eggs and you're like, oh, and then they love you and they follow you around, and then they grow up one day and then they act like they don't know you. You have to chase them into their house because they don't know how to listen. They flatten all of everything and turn it into a muddy mess, and they like shoot poop. It's not even like a chicken where it just falls. It's just like they shoot wet, gross. It's just nasty. No, ducks just were not, they're not for this homestead. Let's just put it that way.
That's fair. That's fair. Not every animal can be for every place. There's no one size fits all. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd really want goats. So, I mean, I thought about sheep. We almost pulled the trigger on sheep, but we've have like a lot of infrastructure that we would need to do in order to keep sheep. But yeah, I don't know, because I've heard a lot of people have a really great time with ducks, but I feel like they're also very noisy.
They can be. They can. You know
We're,
what's really noisy? A guinea hen.
I haven't heard that. Are they noisy?
Oh my gosh, they're horrible. We have my mom's. I during spring I hatched out 8 guinea hens for her and we gave them to her and I helped her set up, but what we thought was a really safe um habitat for them at her property. And it was safe against most things, but not a bear. And one survived out of all 8. So I told her, I was like,
Wow.
you can't leave him there because the bear's going to come back. And I brought my trail cam over and hooked it up inside. And I says, you watch, he's going to come back. I took the guinea hen home with me and let it live with the chickens. And lo and behold, on that trail cam, there comes the bear crawling in there like, hey, where's the rest of the meat, So, but yeah, we have him and I can't wait to return him. I mean, he's nice and cool looking, but he is loud. They're like an alarm system. Anytime we come walking down the driveway, they're just, and then any like the one thing is good is like if the deer are walking around in the yard or a fox or something, they are an alarm system. So they are loud, but they're useful loud, like not like ducks.
I did not know that. I'm gonna have to after this. I'm gonna have to look up what a guinea hen sounds like because we got a catalog for poultry. And be like, hey, would you like to buy more meat birds this year? Not this year, but and guinea hens is one of the things. Sorry, and yeah, we both got problems today, but that's all right. We're
Yeah,
working through it.
yeah, sure.
And guinea hens was in the catalog, and I'm like, oh, I've heard good things about these. Like my wife and I, we like watching Homestead Rescue, even though
Oh my
it's
gosh, we
just
were watching that last night.
over the top dramatic. It's just funny though. And so they used guinea hens, I think, in one of the episodes. And so we thought about it because they're supposed to be like good foragers and whatnot. And I was just like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
and they're really good for ticks. That's why I hatched them for my mom, is because she had such a bad tick problem on her property. We went for a walk through her yard, and 5 minutes later, we're back at the house and pulled 5 or so deer ticks off of us. And
Wow.
I said to her, I says, I can't bring the kids over here until we do something about it. And she's very homeopathic and, she
Oh,
doesn't want
that's cool.
unnatural things and stuff like that, So I says to her, I said, get yourself some guinea hens or some chickens, but the guinea hens can eat over 3,000 ticks in a day. I think it's
That's
3,000.
crazy.
Don't hold me to that fact. It's either 1,000 or 3,000, but it's definitely in the thousands. And that's just one guinea hen. And I think that the ticks are attracted to them because of their body heat or their carbon monoxide or something that they expel. And they go right to them to just be eaten or something, because we had gotten her 8 and they were in a small spot on an 11-acre lot. Now, she doesn't use the whole 11 acres, but the section that we were having issues far away from where they were, there were no more tick issues and they weren't being let out constantly. So that something was good about them being there. The numbers completely dwindled.
Complete side question.
Go ahead.
With your mom being more homeopathic, was there anything like any suggestions that she had for you for your oldest son being autistic? Like, hey, I am just I have no idea what anything would be like.
Not
Maybe
really.
this.
She's always offered advice. I don't think there was anything medicinal, like, or herbally, whatever, offered as far as his condition goes. A lot of the times, like she was just telling me a whole bunch of things to take because we just got over COVID,
Mm-hmm.
she was, take zinc and vitamin C and vitamin D and, take drops of oregano essential oil mixed with olive oil and put it under your tongue and hold it there as long as you can. And she's, all these things will help you. And I know they will, but I don't think there was anything other than, just the typical, we got to get him into speech therapies and occupational therapies and the right school and stuff like that. Nothing really medicinal wise. I don't remember.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've known people that are like that. And, like, my wife is in a herbal class right now, and she came back from class. Her classes are 2 hours, 2 hour sessions once a week, and she'll just like unload everything that she just learned on me, and it's super cool. Like, oh wow, I didn't know that about what like this thing or like nettles and like rose hips, and we can make a thing out of this, but
Mhm.
we got little hairs in. I don't know, just like little, almost like a lost. It's almost like lost knowledge, like
It
that.
is
It's just
lost knowledge.
just not taught like conventionally.
No,
So
no, you're told big pharma is what is it's supposed to be, and that they're supposed to be the fix all cure all, and not realizing that growing in your backyard could be something that may help you better. I mean, I don't know how many times I've used something herbal and found that it's treated me way better than, taking that cough syrup,
oh
sometimes
yeah.
old school remedies. I mean, for COVID right now, one of my biggest things for the cough is a spoonful of sugar with a couple drops of whiskey on it, and you eat the sugar, and it works better for my cough than Robitussin does. That was grandpa's secret recipe for getting rid of a cough.
I might have to remember that one.
No,
I'm not really a drinker or anything like that, but
it's not
I'll take
about
a
really
couple
drinking.
drops.
It's just about getting the whiskey to just kind of just gently coat the sugar, and you eat the sugar. You're not doing it for the whiskey. You're doing it for the
Sure.
sugar with the whiskey on it.
One of my favorite things is when we go and get sushi in town, they give you pickled ginger, and it's really good. And anytime like my stomach's not feeling right,
Ginger.
I eat a couple slices of that pickled ginger, and it's really good. We tried making it ourselves once. It was not the same. It was, and it took it took a long time to like to peel it, because it doesn't really peel. You more like shave it.
I was gonna say it looks more like something that's it's like a root vegetable, so I would think you would just like a carrot.
Yeah, because it has like all those nooks and crannies in it, you really take more like the edge of a spoon and like scrape the skin off the ginger, and then dice it up. Not dice, sorry, you slice it, and then the pickling brine might have been little weird on ours as well. But
Pickling is an interesting thing to take on. It's not every pickle can taste totally different. Getting the brine just right is like, I feel like you have to be years worth of like master. It's like an art.
that is true. I was I was working on this ranch in Montana, and they're like, "Would you like some sauerkraut?" And I never had like I'm a I come from like meat and potatoes world, right? Like I'm not eating sauerkraut, but I was like, whatever, I'll try it. And so I tried it. I'm like, this tastes like pickles. No one told me this tastes like pickles. This is great. And like next night, she opened another jar. Like, would you like some? Like, sure. Tasted totally different. Like, I don't know what it tasted like, but it didn't taste like pickles. So, I mean, just from batch to batch, and who knows when if they were even canned or jarred the same day or whatever. But, So, what would you say the biggest challenge in homesteading is you face so far?
Um, I would say our lot size has been a pretty interesting challenge, is trying to accommodate what we want to do around what we're allowed to do because we have to follow so many rules. Um, yeah, I'd say that's pretty much like the biggest challenge. And where we're located, we also have to plan for things based off of, like, what's it going to be like in winter, what's it going to be like in the summer, is it going to be a certain, like, we had issues with the lower half. We have our property kind of cuts into two almost. We have what we call our lower field, and that was not usable up until last summer, because it would flood, and they
Oh,
finally they fixed the issue of drainage that was outside of our property line, so we weren't allowed to fix it. But they finally came in, whoever owns that property fixed it and dug it out and has it now where there's a nice big, the water goes where it's supposed to go. But there was like a whole good, I would say, half an acre we couldn't use because of flooding. So it's just a matter of like figuring out, you just got to think really, really good before you do stuff. But I mean, we've got everything I think we're going to want. I mean, eventually I do want a horse, but that's not going to happen on this property. Um, and we're here for at least the next 10 years, and wherever we go, everything's coming with us except for the house. So
sure. Yeah. That flooded area would probably be pretty good for ducks.
yes, I don't want ducks. Not again.
Um, so anything that you wanted to do that you couldn't physically do on this property, would um would you be able to use your mom's place or like a neighbor, rent some like a lot near you, or is that option? Have you researched that at all?
I
Just
mean,
curious.
there are options. Like, I had thought about maybe doing my own hay, um, because hay gets expensive, and we have a hard time. Like this time of year right now, we've come across like our hay guy. He's out. There's no more hay. So
Oh,
now we have to find like other sources and stuff like that, which we have, a local farm store that's literally right down the road, and they always have hay, but it's like where we would pay $6 a bale, now we're paying $10 a bale. So
whoa,
it's
that's a
it's a
big
price
markup.
difference. Yeah. And we do it. So we are thinking of adding more structures, like a hay storage structure of some sort or something like that, which we can do on this property with no problem. Um, what do you call it? I was going to do like maybe like haying fields or something like that. My mom offered up part of her land, which would be great, but I would have to plow it, which I don't have a plow or any of those things. And I'm definitely not going to do it by like hand. But I won't just hay the field that she has, because I don't know what's in there. I'm very particular about what I feed my goats. And I've heard horror stories about, like milkweed getting into a batch of hay and all of a sudden half the herd is dead. So I'm very, very picky about looking at my bales of hay before I give them to them. My animals eat probably better than I do. And definitely much more timely than I do. But yeah, we're very picky about all that. So
One option that a lot of people do around here, because obviously buying hay equipment is expensive, is that they just hire out someone to hay their property so that already is haying. So and typically you don't even have to pay them for it. They just take a cut of the hay. So hey, I'll take I'll take 100 bales and you take 80 or something like that. Whatever it works out to be, they'll just do it because they like
I'll have to
they
look into that. I did see
yeah.
a friend of ours was was offering services to hay people's field, but I never asked really like what it was involved in it. We don't have enough property to really just be like, hey, come here with your big crazy equipment, and hey, he'll be like, one swoop, and he'll be like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. How do I can't turn around now to get out.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Or he'll get trapped in the mud because there's some pretty mucky spots in certain spots of the property. So
yeah, there was one guy I was talking to. He does haying for like mainly. He's a ranch kid. And he went to this neighbor's property, like, oh, is there anything in here in this field that I should know about? I'm like, nope. And so he's haying their field, and they hit like the wellhead or something like that, or something weird on their property that was sticking out, and it was covered with hay. Couldn't see it, and so he, like, the money that he made selling the hay was less than the cost of repairing the thing plus the equipment that of his own that he ruined. And so he's like, I want to be mad, and I still am kind of mad, but like, you told me there wasn't anything in this field and you didn't want any of this hay. I was just gonna, like, you just wanted it hayed. You're just going to give it to me. That's fine. But like, come on. Like, this is now a lot of work for me.
That's rough.
So, yeah. So, what would you tell somebody that wanted to get started in homesteading, or specifically goats?
I'd say definitely check to make sure that you are allowed to have whatever you're allowed to have. I don't know how many times I've seen stories of someone saying, oh, we just got these goats, and then now the village is telling us we can't have them, or their town is saying this is not allowed on our size property or in this specific zone. So definitely just be mindful of where you live and what the rules and regulations are for where you live. Also, dream big, but start small. Don't plan to finish everything in 1 year. It's not going to happen. Make yourself small goals that you can achieve, and you're going to succeed. It's not going to happen overnight, and it shouldn't happen overnight. Your hands get dirty every single day because that's what you're in it for. It doesn't just start one day and stop the next. You're in it for life. Know that they live, anywhere between 12 and I've seen 16 years on a goat. And if you're not going to devote your time to having that animal forever, or if you're buying them for meat, that's one thing, but you're buying a living creature. So make sure that its life counts for something and that it has a good life while it's on your property. I don't know how many times I've seen people just giving up animals all the time, and it bothers me. When they come to my property, that's their forever home.
That's well said. Especially, I see a lot of people giving up roosters. A buddy of mine put out an ad on Craigslist and I think Facebook Marketplace. Like, I'll take all your roosters, all of them. And people were just dropping them off by like the dozens. And he ended up with 80 roosters on his property. Wow. Fed them for about 2 to 4 weeks, I want to say, and then in a weekend processed them all, stocking up the freezer. So I was like, that's pretty smart.
I mean, that's a good way to stock up the freezer. But I mean, if that person raised that rooster and was like, yeah, I hope it has a good home. Like, I mean, that one's a hard one. I've hatched chicks before, and I've had to give up roosters. That one's a different. Like, I knew I couldn't have them, but you want to hatch chicks, so you take the risk of, you have to get rid of some, so you try your best to find them a good home. But roosters, they typically go to freezer camp. You only need 1 or 2 on the property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, they'll just fight like crazy. So you're into the soap, and are you selling goats currently?
We have 3 does bred right now. The first one, I'm not 100% sure of her due date. She stood for the buck 2 times and went into heat 2 times. So I'm not sure if she's due in March or if she's due in April. Keeping a close eye on her, though, around the first possible due date. But we have one due anywhere March 19th or April 10th. We have another one due April 14th. And then we have another one due May 6th.
Is that normal that they're spread out from like that far of like a month?
Well, a lot of ours are young because we just started out. So we have a lot that are, not even quite a year old yet. You can breed them as early as 7 or 8 months old if they make all of the body requirements. So you want to make sure that they're at least 40 pounds or larger. This is the Nigerian dwarf goat breed. I'm not talking about, the larger breeds or anything like that. But you want to make sure that they're at least 40 pounds and that they have, it's called thorough. It's basically their pin bones on their back end. You have to make sure that you can't just, touch them like this with space in between your hands. You have to be able to really make sure that they're wide enough to carry babies. And that they're overall they look like they've got good size and everything else, and that they're healthy and stuff. So we only had, out of our 5 does, we had one, she's just 3 years old, so she definitely is fine. And then we had 2 younger ones that were the right age and that did meet the physical requirements. And then we have 2 other little girls that are the right age, but they just have not met the physical requirements yet. They're just on the smaller side. Some grow quicker, some grow smaller. So, slower. So we have 3 that are bred right now, and we'll probably retain a female or 2 from these kittings, but everything else is going to be up for sale. They're all ADGA registerable, so they can be shown. And they come from, most of them have very good show lines and milk lines, but it's a few generations back. All the breeders we got ours from, hadn't done shows or anything like that with them. So our plan is to get my son taking the goats to show and getting our girls on milk testing and stuff so that we can bring those hidden genes that, are a few generations back into play and get them their pedigree to go a little bit higher.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask what you sell your goats for?
It depends. Like this little guy, when he starts making babies, they're going to be a lot more expensive because his dad is a 3-time grand champion, 3-time best in show, 2-time best in breed, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and also comes from stellar milk lines. He's already like a star beat buck. And then his mom, same thing. She won a few shows or a show or 2, and she has her milk star already. So he's going to be pushing some really good genetics into the herd. So his babies will sell for more expensive. The ones that we have to play it safe. We can't just sell for $200 and hope that somebody doesn't turn them into meat. They're dairy goats. They're not meat goats. We love our animals. We don't want to see them turn into somebody's food or go to auction. So we sell them for a little bit more expensive. And they are ADGA. They are good. They all look really good. They can be shown. So our does go for a start of $450 a head. Our bucks start at $350, and the price is subject to change depending on certain features that they come out with. And wethers are always $200, $250 because they're castrated bucks. They're only good as a pet.
Okay. So like, what kind of features would somebody be looking for when they're buying a goat?
It depends on what they're looking for it for. So they could be looking for a stronger dairy line. So they may pinch the skin and look for a looser skin on the goat. A looser skin on the goat means that the bag has an ability to fill. Even on a buckling, bucklings pass over a lot of their milk production genes to their daughters more so than their moms do. They'd be maybe looking at like the skin, or they might be checking out like, do you have pictures of the udder to see what they look like? I mean, I've seen some of the udders, like this little guy's mom's udders are like way bigger than my head. I mean, just these giant things, but you also want the connection of the udders on the back end to be strong and solid, because you don't want that bag hanging on the ground. You're looking at bacteria, the kids not being able to feed because it's too low to the ground. So you need strong structure in that that udder. There's also an LA appraisal scores, which we're gonna be getting eventually. Everything costs a decent penny to do, you know, and we're not made of money. So we're going to get there eventually, but there's the LA appraisal, which is basically like a appraiser will come to your property, but they appraise the goat. So they see the way it stands, they see how it holds itself, and how thick it is here or thin it is here, and they tell you, you know, how long its neck is, and they'll give it a number. Best number to have is between 90 and 100. That means you have an excellent quality goat. It's not the easiest to obtain those numbers. So you'll see more often like in the 80s, which is just a very good conditioned goat. And it's still a really good goat to have. And then there's show history, you know, like did the parents win shows and stuff? Because that's also an indicator that the babies may be able to, or it could be passed on in certain which ways and stuff. So there's a lot of different things people would look for. And then there's, you know, regular everyday people who are just looking for like a pet, but they want a certain color pattern. Nigerians come with such excellent color patterns. Actually, what Forky is here is my absolute favorite. It's called a chamois, and it's a black underbelly with black legs, and the brown body with the black stripe down the back. But then there's a lot of different other ones. You have buckskins, you've got moon spots. Moon spots are different little like misplaced spots of different color on the goat. It can be anywhere. And a lot of people look for moon spots. People sometimes want blue eyes over non-blue eyes, or you have horned goats or you have polled goats. There's a lot.
That does sound like a lot. It's interesting trying to figure out like what the values of all those characteristics would be. Like, I don't know, is it more 400, 450, 500? High as 6? So like it's weird to like, is there, what's the goat market by you like? Is it competitive? Are you like, it's like you and one other person that are goat breeders?
I've had to, for the most part, travel to get my goats. I haven't found a lot of people locally by me who have this breed. The one I didn't even know she existed until like last year is the one I got Forky from, and she's actually only about 15 minutes away and works right down the road from me. So we've become friends now. But she's got goats that are, I mean, I can't even compete with hers because she shows everybody and she's got them all on milk testing. Like I can't, I'll catch up one day. Sure. But I mean, market wise, I mean, I've traveled up to 5.5 hours away to go get my guys. So, I mean, I think if you put them as a reasonable price and, you know, you show people that you care and that your goats are well cared for. I mean, there's also disease testing. I do that. I think it's very important to disease test your herd. You can introduce things to your herd if you don't. And a lot of people, like, I will never buy a goat that's not from a herd that's disease tested. Some people will. So, I mean, there's a market where someone could be selling one, but they may not test for stuff and they could be giving you anything, you know? So I don't really do it to be in competition with anybody. I do it because I need milk. You got to breed them in order to get milk. And they just happen to be their own little money bags there too. So it helps.
Do you sell the goat milk itself?
I don't really want to get into selling food products or dairy products or anything like that. I feel like there's way too much red tape to go through to do it safely and not get sued. So I don't sell the milk, and I only like give eggs to friends and stuff like that. I don't really bother with like farm food stuff. I think there's just, it's out of my realm of comfort level, I think. So I do the soaps. Sure. And I really enjoy the soaps. I keep them as natural as possible. I refuse to use fragrance oils or anything, any colorants or anything like that in there. Anything I do for color and stuff comes from like actually infusing something from a plant to get that color from the plant to go into the soaps, and essential oils and things like that for scenting. I've also infused oils with like vanilla and stuff because you can't get a vanilla essential oil. It doesn't exist. So like you have to infuse other oils and stuff to get like a vanilla scent. So I stay as natural as possible, but I'd rather do the soap side of things than the food. And then I'll keep milk for ourselves. Like Riley loves yogurt and he loves milk. The kids used to run outside to watch me milk Amber. And that's our big mama goat. We were milking this summer. They would run out there, watch me milk her, and then be waiting for me inside when I'd come inside with the pail and pull the strawberry syrup out of the fridge. And I'd look at them and go, it's not even cold yet. So, I mean, it was a fight to even take any of the milk for soaps because the kids were too busy going, I want to drink it all.
That's
so
really funny.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys.
Okay. That's really funny. Shoot, that made me forget my question. Oh, I remember. Do you do goat milk lotion at all?
I'm actually in the process of, I've designed it. I've made the recipe. I'm going to make a body butter, but it's not going to be a goat milk one to start. I'm going to start with just a regular body butter because as soon as I introduce any kind of water substance like milk or anything like that to lotion, you need a preservative to put in there. And I'm still doing my due diligence on research of what I want to use. Because I'm very picky about, stuff like that because it's not exactly natural. I mean, soap has lye in it. It's just you can't get away from that. So it's also something that's not 100% natural, but it changes chemically as soon as it touches the oils. So I'm still trying to figure out what preservative I want to use. I'm pretty sure I know which one I want to use, but I have not made that yet. But I will be making a body butter probably this week. I've already designed it, but I haven't been in my soap room really to make anything or touch anything since I had the COVID because I don't want to contaminate anything until I'm better,
That's fair. We use a goat milk lotion on my son's legs. He gets eczema pretty easily and pretty bad. And we tried a bunch of different stuff. You want to talk about like big pharma or whatever, like the Johnson & Johnson eczema or a Vino baby lotion stuff or whatever, didn't do jack for it. We just do very little goat milk lotion on his legs, and that like every night it's been no problem. Like he used to get it so bad that it would be like, oh, gross. Like, what's wrong with your legs? And I don't even know how my wife found out about the goat. She probably somebody she follows on Instagram that does like goat milk lotion. And so she's like, I'm going to buy some. I'm like, let's try it, whatever. And so we tried it. I'm like, this stuff is like made of miracles or something. I don't even know that. It's great.
It's so funny that you say that because both my kids have horrible eczema. My mom has horrible eczema. My grandmother has horrible eczema. I don't really have it, but I watch everybody in my life suffer from it. So I cannot advertise that my soaps or my products are to treat eczema because I am not a cosmetologist. But what I can say is I've researched a lot into the specific oils that I use in my soap and the super fat content that I leave, which if you don't know, super fat content in soap is it's a percentage of the oils that are not turned into soap that are left in it to continue to hydrate the skin. So if you have a 0%, all you have is something that's cleansing, that's probably going to leave your skin super dry and not fun. But what I do is I do a 7% super fat, which is kind of high, but eczema is a dry skin condition. It's only treated by moisturizing the skin and keeping it clean and everything else. So I use a 7% fat in my soaps, and I use hemp seed oil is really, really good for eczema, and certain essential oils and stuff are also really good for eczema. Since I started using my own soaps on the kids, they've had a world of difference in their skin. They have not broken out at all this winter. And then my grandma was having such a hard time that the soap itself by itself was helping, but it was not helping her enough. So I just whipped together a bunch of the oils and I turned it into a salve with some essential oils that are really good for the same thing, and they're good for eczema in there. And I brought over this jar of just a salve that I brought over, which is fine because it doesn't have any waters or anything in it. So it's good for, a year on the shelf, just good shelf life. And she's been using it, just putting it in certain parts of her skin and stuff, and it's been clearing it up for her. That's actually what I designed the body butter to be, is because I wanted something that wasn't like a greasy salve. I wanted something that's more like the consistency of lotion with the same qualities as that. Because I have a friend at work too who tried it, and she has terrible eczema. She came to me one day and I don't know what to do. And I says, put it on there and don't go easy on it. Put it on there and see how it goes. And after a week, she came to me like almost crying that she's so excited. She actually had to run to her parents because it's the first time in a long time her skin's been clear. But my stuff doesn't treat eczema. It's just good stuff.
It's just good stuff. I think you should put that on the label.
I might.
Just good stuff. Wrapping up here, do you want to tell people what you're doing with some of the proceeds from selling your soaps and stuff?
I would love to. So we are so grateful that we've been given this opportunity to do what makes us really happy, and to watch our son just starting to thrive from being around these animals, and that he's getting so much from them. And we feel like, we've been given like this gift from the universe. So we decided to give back a percentage. And so every soap or lotion or whatever we sell, when we really start getting going, everything we sell is we donate 10% to a scholarship fund called the Devin Hausman Memorial Scholarship Fund. We donate 10% of it every single month to this fund to help kids like my son get into certain colleges or programs. Or it's these kids don't get an opportunity like a normal kid to excel or to get scholarships and things, because they don't meet the typical requirements. A lot of them aren't even able to technically graduate because they're working on like an IEP and they're not classified as a normal kid. But like one of them may have a dream of, I want to open up a candle store and I'm really good at this and I know what I want to do. And some of the money can be donated or not donated, but given to the kid as a scholarship to help them get their feet on the ground. But it's meant for children who are special needs or have special gifts, to give them an opportunity that they might be overlooked for in any other place. And it's just a beautiful thing. We know the two parents that started it, their son passed away in 2021. It's so weird, but he was so much like my son. I mean, he was much older, but like almost to the T. All the stories I hear and stuff, I feel like I'm hearing stories about my son. And it was just a tragic thing that he passed away. And he was such a kind, sweet soul. And they wanted to do something because of in honor of him and in memory of him. And they started up this amazing scholarship fund. And their first year, their goal was to reach $20,000. That was this year. They had to reach it by December. December came and they were at $25,000, which $5,000 more was their next year's goal to get it up. And they've only been increasing and climbing and climbing. And every single month I sell soaps. Every single month I've been almost doubling what I've donated the month prior, which is just, it's heartwarming. And I feel so good that we do it. And I really appreciate all the people who have bought soap and everything from us so that we can do it. Baby goats, when we sell them, we don't do a percentage, but we do $50 off the top of every baby goat. So I sell a baby goat for $450. 50 of that $450 goes right to the scholarship fund to try and help these kids excel and get a chance to further themselves in life.
That's amazing. That's really cool. Maybe we can talk about this more after.
Sure.
But what I was thinking about today in prepping for this was like, what if she set up like sponsorships for like the goats, like sponsor a goat, like whatever. Like, I don't really know exactly how that would work. Maybe like the breeding bucks, you like, since you're gonna keep them and you're gonna name them, or your son's gonna name them, like, hey, would you like to sponsor Forky for like $100 or whatever? And like that $100 you would, be added to your monthly amount that you write your check, or whatever percentage of that amount, like someone sponsors the goat for, could go towards that scholarship fund. I don't know, just like just an idea I had, like floating around, like how could other people get in on what you're doing? It's just like, I don't know, just curious. So but hey, is there anything you wanted to wrap up on?
I definitely wanted to hit the donation thing, because I thought people should know what we do with the money and everything else. I think I'm good.
All right. Where can people follow you?
Right now, I'd say the best place to follow me is on our Instagram, which is Harte Homestead.
I will have links to that.
Okay. I do have a Facebook page. We don't have a ton of followers, but I will be, especially in March and April, I'd like to gain more followers on there. I'm maybe posting live pictures of the live videos of the births from the goats. Some people may think it's gross, but I think it's fascinating. So I'll probably be doing that on our Facebook page. Our website right now is under construction. I'm having difficulties changing the domain name to the one that I've paid for from the one from like the free Wix website and stuff like that. So I'm having an issue getting that resolved. So right now I can't really give, it's supposed to be chickenhearthomestead.com, but when I pull that up, it's not leading me to anything. So I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world. So I'm trying. But Instagram is definitely the place to follow us. I post on there at least 2, maybe 3 times a week, sometimes even more because I'm bored. And there's a lot of Forky content these days. He's been doing tricks, and actually he's got 2 new tricks that he's going to be debuting soon too. So
I'm going to look for that. I'm going to watch for that. So
nice.
Well, cool. You can follow Farm Hop Life anywhere and everywhere. Trying to make it hard to avoid us. So this has been great. I appreciate your time.
No, thank you. I appreciate yours.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening. I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment, review, or send us an email, farmhoplife@gmail.com. Those are always great to read. Like and subscribe as well, but most important is sharing this podcast. We really appreciate it. You can check us out on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Float, MeWe, and Odyssey. Farmhop.life is where you can see stuff that we post on our social media pages and sign up for our email list so we can stay in touch. FarmHopLife.com is the main site where we'll have lots of exclusive stuff that we don't share anywhere else and some merchandise to help us keep going. Additionally, you can listen to the podcast there and add it to your player of choice. Also, where you can sign up for our email list to let you know of new episodes, interviews, or big changes. Check it out. Thanks.